Hello and welcome to round 15 here at Grand Prix Utrecht. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined as always by Matej Big Z Zadelkai. And in round 15, playing for top 8 in the Netherlands, we have Casper Nielsen versus Pierre Sommen. And amazingly, this is our first black-green constrictor match on camera. Both sides, both with the snake, and we already see one from Casper Nielsen here. On turn 2, there is a winding constrictor.
Oh, that's a good start, right? I mean, having constrictor is what can decide these matches, because it's a lot about the beef, the big creatures, the counters. Usually the player with a big Verder's Gearhulk takes it, and if you have a constrictor, your +1/+1 counters are doubled or added one extra.
Yeah, it's the catalyst for basically everything that this constrictor deck is doing. Almost every other creature that it gets into play has the potential to do cool things with +1/+1 counters. Or indeed energy counters, a whole bunch of different counters getting thrown around.
Yeah, I actually talked to Casper before this tournament. He is a buddy of mine that I started talking to once when traveling back from a GP, and he just said, this deck's so good. And he hasn't lost today. He's 5-0 today. He started 7-2 yesterday. He's on a roll here. Let's see if he has something good to follow that up with. Doesn't seem like ideally here, like a Rishkar would be really good, but just a Hissing Quagmire.
Lots of Hissing Quagmires, 2 of them already from Pierre Sommen on the other side of the board. He does have a third land, and it looks like a winding constrictor of his own at some point. The Frenchman there, we see him figuring out what he wants to do on this third turn.
Let's see. It's like 3 mana is getting tapped. Okay, Nissa.
And immediately making a plant token.
Okay, that's not bad. I think Casper does have a Ruinous Path in his hand, so he can take care of that right away. And if Pierre Sommen doesn't, yeah, okay. If he doesn't deal with the Constrictor, then next turn Casper can go for a huge Verder's Gearhulk turn.
Yeah, there's an Evolving Wilds in play for now, but I can only imagine that will be cracked before Casper Nielsen's next turn, so it doesn't slow down his mana development in the slightest.
Yeah, the thing with this matchup is usually the player going first has a pretty big advantage, because being able to play your Constrictor first and forcing your opponent to react to it is very important, and the same goes for Verder's Gearhulk. It's just such a huge swing, and it's very important to get on the board first. And Pierre Sommen is just, spending his first turn attuning and playing Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. It's just not that great.
So winding constrictors all round now.
Yeah, I think Casper, I'm not saying he's going to get punished, but he didn't have to play the Evolving Wilds. He could have just played a Swamp from his hand to keep up Fatal Push mana, and I just wonder if that won't come back to bite him a little bit here, because ideally he could have now destroyed the Winding Constrictor before the Glintsleeve Siphoner entered the battlefield and just left Pierre with just one of these 2 creatures. Well, I mean, Casper certainly won't mind that he'll get to play a big Verder's Gearhulk here, but still, it could have gone a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, the Glintsleeve Siphoner generating 2 energy when it comes into play, thanks to the Winding Constrictor. We'll see if we can just get the energy moved a little bit on screen so that we can see it nice and easily, and it will mean that Pierre Sommen are able to draw additional cards, assuming that Siphoner does stay around.
All right. So, yeah, we're just moving those. Yeah, there we go. Energy visible.
Lovely stuff. Up to 5 mana, and that means a big Verder's Gearhulk here. A bunch of counters to spread around, and with Winding Constrictor in play, it only means that these creatures are going to look all the bigger.
Yep. 2 on each, so 3 on each, thanks to the Constrictor. And there's a big swing.
The big snake in town coming on in. Only 1 creature back means that Glintsleeve Siphoner will be able to attack next turn. And Sommen with 13 life, I think he's probably still pretty happy to just spend an energy and a life to draw a card here. Long Tusk Cub, couple of Long Tusk Cubs actually in hand for Pierre Sommen now, alongside Walking Ballista. All of these cards play nicely with the Winding Constrictor.
So much stuff in Pierre's hand.
I mean, ideally he would love to have just a piece of removal to deal with one of the substantial creatures on the other side of the battlefield. Unfortunately, that does not appear to be what his hand's all about here.
He just has a bunch of stuff, bunch of creatures. I think there's 5, so 3 cubs. Rishkar, Walking Ballista. He might even have 6. I think it might be a Tireless Tracker as well.
Well, Rishkar putting counters on creatures will then mean that those creatures can tap for mana. So we could have a fairly explosive turn here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, playing Rishkar, putting 2 counters on each the Winding Constrictor and the Glainsleeve Artist Siphoner is actually pretty nice. And he could then play something else as well, maybe like a Long Tusk Cub. But remember, Pierre is actually falling behind quite significantly, and there's like a 7/7 trample to worry about, so he has to be very careful about how he deploys his threats.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be careful full stop. He's on 12 life, and his opponent is threatening pretty much that amount of damage here. So there's Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Going to have some counters to spread about. Something that a certain snake in the middle there kind of likes. 2 and 2 rather than the traditional 1 and 1, thanks to Winding Constrictor.
It's such a warm and fuzzy feeling whenever you get to do this.
Yeah, if this was turn 2, turn 3 of Snake, then Rishkar, it would be a lot more exciting. But as things stand, he does now have a much more potent force, and the Glainsleeve Siphoner can attack in, generate 2 energy thanks to Winding Constrictor. I feel like we should probably just leave it in parentheses for almost every play, thanks Winding Constrictor, because
pretty much.
It's making almost everything better at this stage in the game. Passes things back to Casper Nielsen, who has a Constrictor of his own, has a Fatal Push, has lands to work with.
Yeah, and remember what I said about not being, I wouldn't say greedy, but playing Evolving Wilds rather than Swamp, and not Fatal Pushing the Winding Constrictor. Can you imagine if the Constrictor wasn't in the battlefield now, the game would be completely different. Yeah,
someone playing Long Tusk Cub after combat there and using the Winding Constrictor for mana, then spending some energy to put counters on the Long Tusk Cub. So there's a lot of power on both sides of the board at this stage. Early game, Casper Nielsen kind of having the run of things. Let's see if he can keep it up. Tireless Tracker. It has its own way of getting +1/+1 counters. Plays a land in order to get a clue. That clue can get sacrificed to draw a card, put 2 counters on Tireless Tracker, and indeed trigger a Vault such that if there were a 3-drop that he wanted to hit with Fatal Push, or indeed a 4, I mean, at the moment there's only a 3, he could do so.
Yeah, this is actually a lethal attack already, because that's a 7/7 Verger's Guildhog and a 5/6 Winding Constrictor. So if you 7 + 5 is 12, and that is exactly Pierre Summon's life total, so he has to start blocking here. Alright, so first, I think Pierre uses 2 energy to put 2 counters on Long Tusk Cub, thanks to Constrictor. Doing so before blockers, though, let's say a little risky, so now he's going to lose his Rishkar right away, and fall behind on board significantly, I would say. Yeah, he's going to take 7 here.
Yeah, falling behind on board, also dropping to a precariously low life total. One thing that I will say for the Black-Green Constrictor mirror, it doesn't tend to be one that drags out super long.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's usually very swingy, and I'm unsure if the life totals are updated correct. I thought Pierre was on 12, meaning that he lost 7, should be going down to 5.
Yeah, we'll double check that.
Yeah, and Casper, I think he shouldn't even wait and just pop the clue immediately, just to make sure he's going to have a 5/4 Tireless Tracker. Yeah, there we go. Life totals were updated correctly here, which actually is very relevant. Every point, every damage matters, especially when the Gearhulk has Trample. Complicates the math significantly.
A land there, the pickup for Pierre Solon. Lands are not really his worry. It's more the fact that on the other side of the battlefield, some substantial threats. Even if he's able to deal with what's there right now, he's still got a lot of damage to deal to actually win this game. And on 5 life, almost any threat that's coming from Casper Nielsen will be enough to pretty much close the game out. There's also, of course, 2 copies of Hissing Quagmire for Casper Nielsen, who a little bit ahead on land might start animating them.
Yeah. Those vital points of damage. Return. There's a walking ballista. That resolves. I'm surprised again why Casper did not sacrifice the clue in response to put some counters on the tireless tracker.
So attacks there from Glintsleeve Siphoner, generating energy for Piasson.
It's bold.
And then potentially we see why Long Tusk Cub that can use that energy to turn into a 4/4.
All right, now there's a sacrificing clue so that he can put some counters on the tireless tracker. Yeah, I don't think this was a particularly good play.
A couple of lands in hand for Casper Nielsen.
It's going to be tough for Pierre to find a profitable block though, because of that trampling Verger's Gearhulk, as well as the there's also the Hissing Quagmire there that's going to start swinging.
Yeah, Winding Constrictor and Verger's Gearhulk both individually lethal. They each need to be blocked by one of those creatures, and that means that with Trample coming over as well, it's going to have to be the Winding Constrictor that's jumping in front of Verger's Gearhulk here, I would imagine.
Yep, and
so 7/7 going over at 5 toughness, so Pierre Sommon should be dropping to 1 on this set of attacks, I believe.
So
a little bit of work to do here for the Frenchman.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, honestly, the attack with Glintsleeve Siphoner, I just didn't like it all. I mean, it was just to generate energy. Sure, it would help the Long Tusk Cub, but I think it would be much better served just trying to chump block the Winding Constrictor and try to at least keep some more creatures in place. So now Casper Nielsen of Denmark, 1-0. Actually, he's friends with a couple of other Danish players who've been doing well over the last couple of months and years. So maybe he can notch a GP top 8 to his resume.
Yeah, I would say that Danish Magic has been in great shape ever since maybe sort of the World Magic Cup in Nice, one that you played in, where Denmark picked up the win. Here we get to see another match again at 12-2. On the left, David Brucker from Germany with already Sky Sovereign and Winding Constrictor in play. On the other side of things, it is Armando Sapiros. We saw him last round in the feature match area. Here he is 12-2, and they're having to play in order to win their way into top 8. Unlicensed Disintegration, dealing with Sky Sovereign, Kunzel's flagship. Big play there from Sapiros. He's a little bit down on life, but with a Planeswalker in play alongside Veteran Motorist and that Thraben Inspector, he's got every reason to believe that he might be able to get back in this.
Yeah, if the name David Brucker starts ringing a bell, he's actually an old school pro, and by old school I mean really old school. He's the former European champion back when we had the championships for every region in 2002, and then he played he stayed on the tour for a couple of years, and he's a really nice guy, and now fighting for top 8 in a random GP in Holland.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, true.
David Brucker taking a big old swing here, dropping down to 2 there as Gideon and a few others get involved. They pile in, and another clue coming from Thraben Inspector. Armando Sapiro is very much in control of this first game.
Oh, yeah. No cards in hand, though. Maybe David Brucker can find a turnaround here, but he has to face a huge board, and I think he just has Traverse in his hand. Yep.
Yeah, that's enough. Armando Sapiro is picking up the first game there. Mardu Vehicles edging it out over Black-Green Constrictor in game 1, and we get a chance to see that Casper Nielsen and Pierre Sommon still sideboarding. This is a match that they're very much familiar with, I'm sure. All of these players. There are some decks that were better known than others coming into this tournament. We've seen a lot of decks working on energy, working on control. We've seen a few combo decks.
Oh yeah.
Paradox Engine getting its first real outing at a GP level and looked very, very impressive when it was winning, but by the looks of things, based on the standings, there were a few matches off camera where it was perhaps not delivering quite the same goodies. And the decks that we know are good, the decks that have been winning GPs already, the decks that have been winning Pro Tours already, still pretty good in this format this weekend. Yeah,
it seems that way. I wonder how our top 8 shakes up in the end, but Yeah, I'm looking at the standings here, and in the rounds leading up to this, we were talking about, okay, these guys can draw maybe at X2 and so on. Actually ended up that none of the tables are drawing. None of the top, even tables 1, where I think table 1, if they draw, they're both in top 8. I think they're playing. Yeah, I see them right here. Yeah, they're both playing. As well as table 2, where we thought the players could draw, but one of the players is on 36 points, so they did not. And there's I think 5 matches with people at 36 points, where the winner will be guaranteed to make it into the top 8, this being one of them. So everyone's playing, no one's drawing.
Well, it means we've got plenty of magic to watch, which I'm not unhappy about. I mean, it's not as big a swing in GPs as it is at the Pro Tour, winning your last round, because potentially you can get buys in the top 8 through to later stages. The way that our top 8s work here at the Grand Prix is a relatively straightforward system. Seeded, quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. But if you do find yourself higher in the Swiss, then that does mean that you get the pleasure of automatically winning the die roll and getting to choose whether or not to go first or second. And if you're playing something like a Mardu Vehicles deck, going first is potentially a big advantage.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage, and this is going to favor the people who are going to get 39 points or even 40 points potentially. It would explain why table 1 with both players at 37 instead of drawing, they're playing, because I think they recognize that even with the loss, they're very likely to make it in, and so they'd rather play out for the first seed, which is so important, as you just described.
All right, you can see there that all of our matches currently shuffling up. We're not missing any kind of magic here. Tom Law from Team Axion now in the UK playing up against
Alexander
Haber.
Yeah.
Got a chance to see a little bit of each of them in the feature match area earlier on, but it looks like Pierre Somon drawing his opening hand, seeing what he thinks of that in this Black-Green Constrictor mirror match against Casper Nielsen.
Yeah, Pierre has a tough decision here. I think he has double Swamp and Grasp of Darkness, but he has double Attune with Ether and a Walking Ballista. But he doesn't have any green sources, so he just the 2 Swamps. I think he might have to mulligan that one, yeah. It looks like Casper Nielsen has kept his hand. Big advantage for the Dane here, who's already looking... he was saying like how he's going to play a lot of the GPs, because he's already on 6 points. He picked up a couple of 3-pointers already this season, and with a win here, that's guaranteed at least 4 points. So he's slowly working his way towards a silver level, because then you get also another 3 for playing the Pro Tour, so just getting points here and there to get the silver level, to get the invite, getting the 2 guaranteed buys at GPs and automatic qualification for IPTQs. So he would be really delighted with the top 8 here.
Doing it the hard way, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But, if it works, hard to argue with that. And another mulligan here for Pierre Somon. Not what the Frenchman was looking for at this stage in the tournament. I mean, there are them that would argue he's had the good fortune to get this far. I'd rather be unlucky in round 15 than unlucky in round 4. But at the same time, right now he's so close to the top 8 that it's just out of reach potentially if he finds himself mulliganing too low right now.
Yeah, so we got some updates from other tables, and one of the tables that was very interesting because it shaped really strongly the rest of the field was a match on table 7, which was Tuan Trong playing against Oliver Hessens, I believe. And Tuan was paired down to a 34-pointer, and him being on 36, but Tuan Trong actually won 2-0. So he's now on 39, and I think that should be enough to make the top 8 no matter what.
All right, so we're gradually getting results coming in. As and when we hear about more matches that are going to be particularly relevant to the makeup of our top 8, we will try and bring you results. Of course, at the end of this round, there will be a big announcement of top 8.
Yeah. All right, so Pierre Somon finally found a hand that he could keep, but I still think it only has 1 land, but he found another one.
That scry is so important. The Vancouver mulligan means that there is a long tusk cub, but a fatal push means it does not hang around for too long. And on turn 2, there is Sylvan Advocate. It's not one that we see from every black-green deck, but if he gets more lands in play, it's a big player.
Yeah, where have you been, Sylvan Advocate?
Yeah, it's interesting. There are so many good cards within black and green right now that it's just not possible for the black-green deck to play all of them. There have to be a few decisions made. 2-3 Vigilance coming in there, knocking Pierre Somon down to 18. He's got a 1-1 Walking Ballista now. It can throw some counters around, but there's ballistas on both sides, and it's just going to be a matter of who gets the lands to be able to pump them potentially. Yeah,
it's again the blinking match. Kind of. I think Casper Nielsen has another Walking Ballista as well as the Vergers, Gilholder, and Sky Sovereign. And also another land to play, so he just needs one to get going. Whereas look at Pierre. Pierre drew his third land. He does have a fatal push, but the rest of it is not that impressive. I think it's just Tireless Tracker and Verdurous Gearhulk.
I mean, if he can continue to draw lands, then Tireless Tracker and Verdurous Gearhulk both look fairly exciting. They both like you getting more lands into play.
True.
But that's kind of, he's on a drawing hand rather than a hand that has power just in and of itself.
Yeah, pretty much. Whereas Casper Nielsen, either he's going to draw lands that are good, or Casper Nielsen can also draw like powerful spells.
Well, he has found a fourth land, and there's a Verdurous Gearhulk and a Sky Sovereign in his hand as well. So basically, their hands are a mirror of each other. It's just that Casper has additional cards on top.
Yeah. All right, so Casper declined to play the Hissing Quagmire. He's not setting up for the 5-mana drop next turn because he wants to be able to kill that Tireless Tracker, and he can still draw another land.
Walking Ballista there used as a kind of expensive shock to deal with Tireless Tracker. That the kind of play that is a luxury afforded to the player that's so many cards up already in this matchup. And it does mean that if Pierre Sommern had kept a hand that was heavy on lands and light on action as opposed to the other way around, then he would be cutting off a way of someone drawing out of that. Yeah. Now, Casper Nielsen doesn't know that actually it's kind of the other way around. Someone has been fortunate to hit his second and third land drops even. Yeah.
As a Sylvan Tag, I think that's going to prompt the Fatal Push. It's going to be the Hissing Quagmire. Now is a tough spot for Pierre. Look at it. Pierre's going to play a Long Tusk Cub, and he's going to get very punished with the Sky Sovereign here. Casper was just waiting for this. Boom. Destroyed that Long Tusk Cub. And next turn, we're going to see a big Verdurous Gearhulk. Still no action from Pierre. Only on one swamp.
Well, plenty of lands are coming here.
All right. Gearhulk. 8/8. I can swing a game. Swing for 6.
Cruise up the Sky Sovereign. Sky Sovereign doing plenty of damage at this point.
Yeah, Battle Cruiser magic, and that's it. Casper Nielsen shouts for the win. He got the top 8 he so desired. Look how happy he is.
Yeah, the fatal pushes that Pierre Sommern drew into there, doing nothing against those 5 drops for the Dane. And you can hear rounds of applause around the hall here. A lot of fans for Casper Nielsen there, very pleased at his result. That another player that we're pretty confident at this stage should be in the top 8. Conveniently, though, we know there's plenty more matches going. We're going to get a chance to jump across and see more magic as these players try and descend on the top 8. This is David Brooker. He lost game 1 against Armando Sapirez, and to be honest, his board does not look exciting against what's going on for the Mardu Vehicles deck. Yes, there's a natural obsolescence to put a vehicle on the bottom of the Vehicles deck, but there's still Thalia Heretic Cathar and that Thraben Lieutenant in Thraben Inspector, sorry, in the battlefield, able to continue getting the beat on. David Brooker on 14 life at this point.
David Brooker has some good cards left in his hand, but that Thalia being a little bit annoying, especially good against an Evolving Wilds there. But I think he could... Yeah, he's going to go for a Traverse here. I see a creature, instant, land. So no Delirium just yet. So I think he's just searching up for a basic swamp or forest.
Just heard, for those of you that are paying attention to how Andre Stradsky's doing with the Dynavolt Tower deck, he did win in this round, but unfortunately I think that earlier losses in the day means that he's going to fall just shy of top 8 unless something strange happens.
Yeah, I think Andre Stradsky is going to end up 10th or 11th in this tournament with a 12-3 record, but that's the 3 points, 3 pro points that might matter at the end of the season. We know that these are the core points that need to get. If there's a GP cap of 6 GPs. So you want to hit at least 3 on all of them.
And here comes a relatively large Walking Ballista. Tough to get enough mana for it to be gigantic. This is not a combo deck. It's just a deck that's playing out lands in the old-fashioned way. Though, of course, a Verdurous Gearhulk or similar later could make that Walking Ballista a lot more potent.
This was a huge draw for Armando. He needed an untapped land to play Chandra, and he instead drew Inspiring Vantage, which comes into play tapped. And so he might have to play something else here, and maybe a Depala. I think he also has Unlicensed Disintegration. Both are fine options.
Sapirez has already got Brooker down to 10. He just needs to find a way of doing the second half of the damage as easily as the first half. Plays a land, figures out what he wants to do here. Sub-Hero is carefully considering what he wants to do. It's definitely tempting to shoot down a Walking Ballista here if you know that you're going to have bigger threats later. But at the same time, there could just be a much better threat waiting in David Brooker's hand. Sapirus does pass back, and we know that there are some nice options here for David Brooker to use a large amount of that mana on.
Plenty of mana there. Sapirus with the game advantage. He won the first one. See if Brooker can turn it around here. This is kind of an interesting spot where David Brooker can go for something like the Verger's Gearhulk, put the counters on the Ballista. Armando Sapirus will probably, in response, play this Unlicensed Disintegration to get rid of the Ballista. Oh no, okay. Sapirus, Brooker just going for the Ballista for 3, tapping out all of his sources.
And this does mean that he effectively has quite a lot of direct damage just sat on the table, ready to fire off in the right direction. We'll see how long this particular situation lasts. There is removal in hand for Armando Sapirus, but it always feels a bit funny pointing removal at Walking Ballista just because it can get a parting shot off.
Yeah, exactly. There's also, Armando Sapirus was thinking about killing the 2-counter Walking Ballista before the first one entered into play. Decided against it in the end. There's quite a lot of firepower in those ballistas.
Sapirus taking it kind of slow here. He's got the advantage on board, I would say. And in response to an Unlicensed Disintegration, Armando Sapirus has to watch on as his Thalia gets taken down. May have even been an extra point at the dome there somewhere. That did mean that he was not going to have a legal target by the time the Unlicensed Disintegration resolved.
Yeah. And now Armando Sapirus can play the Chandra if he wants to. The board is not empty. We know David Brooker is saving up for a big Verger's Gearhulk.
Yeah, tapping out here, I guess a tiny bit risky in the face of something like the Gearhulk, but Chandra, Torch of Defiance, just such a powerful card. I can certainly see the allure of getting it in play here, especially when you're this far ahead on life totals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. He probably, Sapirus wants to keep pushing on, you know, using the first possibility to keep putting David Brooker on the lower life total, but he also plus to get mana and play the Scrap Heap Scrounger from his hand. Yeah, that's what he's going to do here. 2
mana. There's a Scrap Heap Scrounger, keeping his board well developed here. Passes back to Brooker. Brooker with 6 mana there that he can use to potentially pump his Walking Ballista a bit, but we know that there's a more efficient way of pumping that Ballista, that being a Verdurous Gearhulk.
He's already lining up 5 mana. I think he also drew a Fatal Push. All the counters on the Ballista.
We have a machine gun on our hands, or I guess maybe a 6-shooter. Yeah,
he's going to shoot down the Thraben Inspector with 2 counters so that he can clear the way. Then he's going to attack the Chandra and finish it off with 1 ping. Yeah.
I like this a lot.
I like this too. Very, very neat.
So Sapira's punished there for tapping out to cast his Chandra.
Yeah, and now the big board on David Brooker's side. See what Sapirus can do to come back. I think he just has another Scrounger and maybe the Pollen hand.
I believe he just drew Gideon, ally of Zendikar. That a nice pickup. Immediately plays Gideon, uses it for the emblem. That meaning that now an attack for 4, a Fatal Push coming from David Brooker.
You can see Armando's like, oh man, he's crushing me. And he also has the Hissing Quagmire. Just keep swinging. A big swing for 9 this turn, potentially? No, okay, just puts a counter on the Walking Ballista, swings for 8 here. I like this too.
And keeps a little bit of mana up in order to threaten whatever's going to come next for Armando Sapirus. Unless there's another threat, could it be from David Brooker?
Ooh.
Gifted Aetherborn.
Good one.
Death Touch, Lifelink. We sometimes refer to it as Vampire Night Walk.
Oh yeah.
No flying for that one, but it's a perfectly solid creature. And on this board, it's not got much competition from Armando Sapiro as he plays a Thraben Inspector and Depala Pilot Exemplar. Mere moments ago, it looked like David Brooker, already a game down against Armando Sapiro, might struggle to come back in this one, but come back he has, and this is a nice board for him. Let's see whether or not he can convert it and force a game 3.
I think David Brooker should be able to convert here. I mean, the Depala is a 4/4 thanks to the Gideon emblem, but we know that David Brooker can pump up the Walking Ballista up to a 5/5. Still, the Aetherborn also trades with anything, really. So does the Gear Hulk. He should just keep smashing.
Well, it looks like he heard you. Everything apart from his Quagmire getting stuck in here, and that does mean there's going to be some blocks on the other side of things. 4 damage just sat on the board in that Walking Ballista, at least 5 if Brooker wants to pump it. That meaning that there's a lot of options to make combat difficult. Don't forget that there is the Gideon emblem in play, so it's going to mean at least a trade between Depala and Verdus Gear Hulk here.
Yeah, I'm sure David Brooker doesn't mind. He got through for 2 damage, gain some life, and he can also give more counters to the Walking Ballista. With Armando at 9, Walking Ballista at 5 counter, that's already threatening the game.
Armando Sapiro draws for his turn. Brazilian plays out a second copy of Gideon. Now we start to see why maybe the first one was so quickly cashed in for an emblem.
Yeah.
A 3/3 Knight Ally token. Another Verdus Gear Hulk the draw.
That's over. Just put all my counters on my Ballista. That's a 9/9. Yeah, and boom.
4 go on, 9 come off. It's 1-1 here in this round 15 matchup between David Brooker and Armando Sapiro. The black-green Constrictor decks, we've already seen the mirror. Obviously, a black-green Constrictor deck won that one, but we may yet get to see more black-green Constrictors making top 8 here in Utrecht.
Yeah, the former European champion pulling it back here. Man. All right, another match. Oh, Charlie Charbach. He had some fans in the chat.
Charlie Charbach on Mardu vehicles up against Umberto Pataka. This time it's a mirror match of the Mardu vehicle kind. 2 copies of Thraben Inspector on the left-hand side of the screen there for Umberto. And then we have Veteran Motorist on the right for Charlie Charbach. Currently a game up on the right, the Veteran Motorist, unafraid to get stuck in here.
Yeah, the board seems somewhat empty relative to the number of lands that are in play. At this point in the Mardu mirror matches, we're already used to, Gideons, Chandras, Heart of Kirin just swinging by. So I'm curious to see that one side only has 2 Thraben Inspectors and a bunch of lands. Yeah, those are untapped.
So there's Release the Gremlins, Unlicensed Disintegration, and a Gideon in hand for Umberto Pataka. He's got options to work with.
That's good.
If he really wants the creatures, he may even find himself destroying his own clue with Release the Gremlins, as well as thinking about the Thopter on the other side of the table.
It's actually a play I really like, because he could get rid of the Thopter on the other side of the board, but because Charlie has 1 mana up, if he just goes for Release the Gremlins for 1 on the Thopter, that means that it would get countered. He wouldn't get any Gremlins, but he could destroy the clue and the Thopter, paying 5 mana and getting 2 Gremlins, even if Charlie sacrifices it.
Now, one of the downsides of that is that there's an unlicensed disintegration in Umberto's hand, and if he sacrifices his clue or destroys his clue with Release the Gremlins, that will mean that he's not got an artifact in play with which to get the 3 damage off.
Yeah, exactly.
So for now, the one card that we hadn't talked about so much, Gideon coming down, immediately producing a Knight Ally token. So widening Umberto's board a little bit. Won't do too much against the Flying Thopter, which can get pumped up by Pianilla.
Let's see what Charbach has. Right, just attacks the Gideon.
Straightforward stuff. Pumps it once with Pianilla, so that's 2 damage to the Planeswalker. Loses 2 loyalty.
Look at that, he has double Sky Sovereign in hand. He really wanted that 5th land.
Yeah, the 5th land would really have been able to punish Umberto. As things stand, though, having 2 Sky Sovereign probably about one more than you normally want. We do know that there's an unlicensed disintegration in hand for Umberto Pataka, so it may well be that the second one still feels pretty good.
Indeed. He has to decide what he wants to kill. Concealed Courtyard, release the Gremlins, and the unlicensed disintegration that you mentioned. Yeah, and we have no results from any of the top 5 tables yet.
These guys taking their time.
Yeah, and it's making it interesting because there's a lot on the line for these players.
Okay, just that courtyard and then a pass there from Umberto Pataka.
Is that the 5th land? No, I think it's an unlicensed integration. Okay, which that's fair. That can kill off the Gideon if the artifact stays in play here. If the Thopter survives. This is again a match of who will blink first. Look at that. So if Charlie pumps here, Berto pumps again. I think he should pull the trigger on the unlicensed disintegration, and so he does.
It's not exciting killing a Thopter with it, but when the option is losing a Gideon on the other side, it still seems like a fine choice.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that Charlie really needed that, needed the Thopter to enable his unlicensed disintegration. Could have killed off the Gideon.
And Charlie on 9 life here needs to watch out a little bit. There could be some big attacks coming in.
Yeah. Gideon can always swing the game a lot.
All right. Ooh, draws a Heart of Kieran off that clue.
Nice. I think the Gideon's going to swing in the red zone.
I like it. Gideon plus the Knight Ally getting stuck in there. Going to prompt some blocks, I would imagine.
Has to be careful here. I would prefer to block with the Pia here, just because he has a Sky Sovereign in play that he will probably need to crew on defense if he ever gets to it. Of course, he doesn't know that Umberto has released the Gremlins in his hand. But okay, blocks with both.
Veteran Motorist from Umberto. He gets to scry 2 here. And we know there's also a Heart of Kieran, so he's going to have a very mana-efficient turn here, Pataka.
And this is tense magic. I mean, people have been complaining about these Mardu mirror matches, but I find them genuinely exciting here. It's always very swingy, and always lots of interesting plays to be had. You have to decide about how you want to commit, and we're going to go to a game 3 here.
Lots of tense matches going on all over the room.
Oh yeah, there's also, for those who not without an access to the pairings, where we have Samo Vio playing on table 1. Okay, but let's just hop right into a match. Look at that. Armando Sapir was like, yeah, here's a mountain. He looks fairly uninspired. Maybe he mulliganed a lot. Yeah, look. Or maybe he just has a slow draw. He's trying to slow roll a good hand, maybe. We'll see soon enough.
David Brooker here, searching up a forest with that Traverse the Oldenwald. I like the way that the Traverse serves different purposes at different times in the game. Early on, it makes you hit your land drops. Late game, it means that you can make sure that you are finding the powerful threats.
Armando is playing as if he is already given up for some reason. Just like drawing a card. Oh, it's this. I know, I understand it's playing for top 8, but he should really buckle down, put on a poker face, and just get on with it.
Maybe this is Oscar Knight play. Maybe maybe he's acting weak so that he can actually spin a little tail to his opponent, David Brooker. David Brooker's been around the block a few times, though. I don't think he's going to fall for too much. Clears out the blockers, swings in with both of his 2/3 creatures. One of them's got lifelink. He's going to gain a couple of points off that being the Ambitious Aetherborn. And here comes a 1/1 Walking Ballista as well. I say 1/1. X was 1. It comes into play as a 2-2 thanks to that Winding Constrictor.
That was a nice turn for David Brooker here. The
Fire Industry from Armando.
Sky Sovereign. So he was Fumigate. He was playing it slow. He did put on a Hollywood performance there.
You got caught up in it.
Yeah, he got me sold, but I also saw he has plenty of cards in his hand, and even a Sky Sovereign would have been really good on this board.
There was a 2-point parting shot from that Walking Ballista, and the follow-up here, a nice one again for David Brooker. Tireless Tracker immediately gaining 2 clues for Brooker with thanks to Evolving Wilds. Fetches up. I like the use of John Avon lands across the basics here from David Brooker. He's got the Urza's Saga and I think Invasion lands from for the forests.
Yep, I like that. Solid selection. Okay, Fatal Push, Gideon. Oh, lots of good cards in Armando Superior's hand.
Yeah, the early lack of activity, just setting up that Fumigate, and now we're going to see what the follow-up is.
Yes.
Kicking things off with a Gideon, I believe.
Hey, he will leave up Fatal Push. Right, so this is a bit of an interesting spot where if David Brooker wants to clear the way for the Tireless Tracker or just even attack the Tireless Tracker into let's go next door.
I mean, technically it is true that there's 1 clue there, but it's more accurate to have the +1% counter on the Tireless Tracker.
Yeah, if David Brooker now attacks his tracker into the Gideon, Armando Superior can block with Night Token and then Fatal Push the tracker away after the Revolt has been triggered. Okay, that's a tracker army if I've ever seen one.
2 more clues.
Right, so are we going to see the Fatal Push here now that the Revolt is enabled? Oh no.
Superior thinks that he can do better. That seems...
Maybe he has another Fumigate? I don't think I saw one in his hand. That would be backbreaking. Oh, he's stopping 5, so he does... Oh, does have it. Man, all of these Fumigates.
Fumigate. Hashtags.
Yeah.
You know you want to, chat. 3 clues and 6 lands, all that's left for David Brooker. Admittedly, one of those lands is going to be able to animate at some point, but both players can say that.
That was a couple of big turns from Armando Superior. He was really Hollywooding it up, but actually he was sandbagged into Fumigates.
Gideon doing work here, refilling one side of the board.
All right, but clues are refilling David Brooker's hand. I saw he drew a Hissing Quagmire, not the best so far. He's digging. Ugh, just a bunch of lands for David Brooker.
Considering the amount of extra cards that he drew that turn, if Hissing Quagmire is the best that he can do, that's going to be disappointing.
Yeah, indeed.
Armando Superior's a little bit down on life here, but very much up in terms of the board state. Now Gideon is looking to get stuck in.
And Armando Superior, maybe after playing 2 Fumigates, he can start playing out more creatures.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we think of decks that are running creatures not wanting to run big board sweepers, but especially once you throw Planeswalkers into the mix, if those Planeswalkers are being aggressive, they mean that you're not punished that hard for having a sweeper. And look at the follow-ups that are happening for Armando Superior's here. He gets to have a big old chunk in here, and David Brooker losing about 1/3 of his life total on 1 swing.
Gideon is just so ridiculous. He's been doing really a lot of work. And Armando Superior can even afford to keep back a Night Ally token so that it can block any Hissing Quagmires looking to snag some loyalty counters off of the Gideon.
Well, there's a big Walking Ballista, which given the number of lands that David Brooker has going on is kind of interesting.
Yep, so he can make a 4/4 Ballista.
And that's exactly what he does. The consolation prize.
It's something.
You've got 8 lands. You've now got 4 pings just sat there. And of course, 8 a happy number on subsequent terms for the Walking Ballista, because it would mean that in principle he would be able to pump it up. In practice, 1 Fatal Push enough to force the Walking Ballista to start throwing counters around. I believe he's killing off a Knight ally, dealing 2 to Gideon.
Yep. All right, we got an update from Table 1. We're going to have our first seed already settled. It's going to be Samuel Vuillot. He won his match, so he's going to be in the top 8 for sure at 40 points and very likely to be first seed. Yeah, he's going to be first seed. No one could catch him with his Mardu Ballista deck. And
Berk Akbalut, he's on 37 points. I don't think that it's impossible that he could find himself in top 8 anyway.
Yeah, but he was playing against Arnaud...
I apologize.
Josep Arnaud Avignon. But Avignon is still on 37 points, but his tiebreakers are not that great, but he should probably make it in regardless. So we'll see afterward. That's the scary part, but we know Vuillot is going to be in for sure. Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of people paying very close attention to the final top 8 announcement on this one. It's a real squeaker, buzzer beater.
Yeah. All right, Superior has plenty of lands here. It's nice that not much has happened, so we can catch you up on how the tournament has progressed. Yeah, we'll see if Vuillot can be joined by his countryman Haber, still playing against Tom Long. We don't have any updates from that table. Okay, just looks like Armando Superior has slowed down a little bit here. Just created a Knight Ally token with Gideon. Maybe scared of the Hissing Quagmires.
David Brooker here on 15 life, facing down Gideon, ally of Zendikar. So many lands to work with both of these players.
Ooh, is that a Runus Path? What a draw, look at that. With Awaken.
Not very often that you see Awaken, but in this case, absolutely gigantic. Killing off the Planeswalker, animating a 4/4 forest. It will be able to swing in immediately if David Brooker so chooses.
Yeah, he could have also gone for sort of a different play. He could have put it on the Hissing Quagmire.
Such that when it's animated, it's a 6/6.
Exactly, and with that touch as well. But this way, he kind of spreads it around a little bit. He can't really attack with the 4/4 effectively because there's still a Shambling Vent on Armando's side of the board, and so a double block of the Vent and the Knight would mean that that the 4/4 would die, trading just for 2/3. All right, let's see both players. Oh, Winding Constrictor is nice though. I didn't realize its interaction with Awaken.
Yeah,
that's cute.
There's so many different ways that Winding Constrictor interacts with things.
Yeah, David Brooker's trying to find the Shambling. Oh, you have two.
Let's just make sure that we account for both of them and figure out how many of them you can animate this turn.
Yeah, I think he's trying to. He can probably animate both, maybe at a cost of energy or life. So no attacks there. Nice try from Armando though.
Tick-tock, David Brooker trying to find a way here.
Mm-hmm.
Rishkar Pima Renegade, another friend of the snake. The snake's a friendly fella. Everyone seems to like him.
Oh, so Chad is telling me there's no interaction between Winding Constrictor and Awaken. I'll believe you, Chad. I won't even check because I like you guys so much. All right, but Rishkar, that interacts very well with Winding Constrictor. If I know that.
Yeah, Awaken putting counters on a land and it then turns it into a creature. That's not something that Winding Constrictor's bothered about.
Yep. All right.
Creatures and players.
All right, so all the Shambling Vents are getting animated here. Are we probably going to see a huge block here?
The number of lands involved in this combat is substantial.
Yep. Surprising amount. And there's a Fatal Push on one of the Shambling Vents. That means that the Winding Constrictor survives while killing Shambling Vent, and then David Brooker also gets to deal 6 with the Awakened land there. That's pretty sweet for him. Let's see if Armando can maybe find something good again. Okay, Nahiri. Oh, geez, that.
It sounds like we may have another result from the feature match area. I'm sure we'll hear about that soon enough. Apparently that was Charlie winning his match against Charlie Trarbach.
Yeah, winning against Humberto Patarca, it looks like. He seems to have a lot of friends, not just here in this room, but I saw a lot of people wanting to see him more on camera, and I guess you'll get to do that during the top 8 because he's on 39 points. I think he's our 4th member of the top 8 locked.
Yeah, there's a lot of different requests for different people to get on camera. Ultimately, there's a limit to how many people we can get underneath the cameras in our feature match area, but do not worry, during the top 8 we will try and get as much of the magic covered as we possibly can. And here is Nahiri the Harbinger coming from Armando Superiors.
Yeah, decisions.
There's a few tapped creatures that could get exiled here. Alternatively, there's the option of ticking up. I think it has to be one of these creatures, surely.
Yeah, it has to be. He has a tough time deciding which one, though. I mean, both know there's 2 hissing Quagmires now on David Brooker's side.
I think it's appropriate that the snake deck also has the lands that hiss.
It is appropriate.
And it turns out that Winding Constrictor is the choice. Even though it's the smaller creature, it is the one that is threatening more scary things, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, Gifted Aetherborn. Another good, decent draw from David Brooker. See if he can animate how many Hissing Quagmires he can animate while playing the Aetherborn, if he wants to. Just one, it looks like. Yeah, everything is attacking Nahiri.
It's going to be tough to keep Nahiri alive in the face of this aggression.
All right.
I think Armando happy to say I'm not going to throw my Night Alley in the way for nothing.
He could have traded off with one of these creatures, but yeah.
Gifted Aetherborn coming down. Death Touch and Lifelink on that Aetherborn Vampire.
Fumigate. Just the 3rd land. Look at that. Armando Superiors. He did draw a good hand with lands and fumigates to stem the early bleeding, but he hasn't been able to convert disadvantage further. Oh, look at that. He's just animating both his Quagmires and swinging with the team. Chump block on the 6/6, but there's still 8 damage coming through to Armando, who's down to 6 now, and he needs a Fumigate. Oh, it's just another land, I think. No,
and
nothing.
There's the
Wow.
handshake. David Brooker picking up that victory. We will see his Black-Green Constrictor deck in the top 8. You can see that that is the last of our matches in the feature match area for this round. Lots of action still going on out on the floor. I can see big crowds around some of the tables, perhaps a judge ruling going on. But we do have our commercial break ready. The next time we see you, it will be with a top 8 announcement and roundup of what's been going on here at GP Utrecht.